We are back. New York baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the hosts are Marty Rose and Robert Deininger, and the host emeritus is with us today, Wayne Unger from Weighted Donuts. So we've got a full house and much to talk about. Yankees and Mets down the stretch. Mets have no stretch. Yankees at least have a shot at it. And I'm going to start with Wayne. Why did they have a shot at it, and why maybe they don't have a shot at it? You are the most objective Yankee fan I've ever met. So you'll tell it like it is.
Well, it's quite simple. They have a shot at it because they're 5.5 games back, and it's still just the second week of August. Not to mention, they are first in the wild card standings. And I don't know if anyone has noticed. Has anybody noticed who's second in the wild card standings?
The Angels.
Angels, yeah.
The Angels. Who would have thunk?
Right.
Okay?
Nobody.
And, I didn't expect them to be playing a little over 500 ball. But last year, many times, almost every week, when Craig was co-hosting the show with me, Craig would ask the question, if you're the Angels, do you trade Trout? And some people said yes, some people said no. I always said no. I said no way. I mean, it would have had to have been an amazing package. But I said for the most part, no way. And, in the climate of baseball, the way it is, I didn't expect them this year, but I felt as though in 2 years they could see a little bit of life. Certainly didn't expect them to be contending even for a wild card at this point. But the Yankees have a shot. Why don't they have a shot? Well, when
Tanaka?
You know what? Tanaka has been hot and cold, but actually, if Luis Cesar is in your starting rotation, that could be trouble. He just gives, and I like Cesar. He's got good stuff, but he just gets up in the zone too much and gives up the home run ball. Sabathia, who wasn't pitching like an all-star, but was giving him steady work, is on the DL. Tanaka is on the DL.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
They could lose.
And Judge, but they have found him out. They're pitching him high, they're pitching him up high. And I guess, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, they were getting Mike Trout out a lot on the high heat. Instead of looking at his own tapes, maybe he ought to look at the Mike Trout tapes and see what adjustments he made, so they don't get him out on the high heat.
Yeah, I'd be trying anything and everything.
Yeah, but it goes on and on. They had lost Hicks for a while, and Hicks comes back and showed how instrumental he was.
Yeah.
Don't forget they lost Starlin Castro, who was, instrumental. So it hasn't been all perfect for them.
Yeah, Castro's at 307 on the year.
Yeah. I'm absolutely convinced that Chapman is hurt. He's got the velocity, but he doesn't have any kind of movement. He doesn't have the kind of bite that he used to have to his slider.
No.
So...
Well, somebody said it's because he's trying to throw 145 miles an hour on every pitch.
You know what? Listen, he's been throwing 103 steady for years now. No, it's not. What happened
He's not
last
as concerned with his off-speed pitches as he is with the fastball. And
Girardi says he needs to learn to pitch better, pitch more, use the slider a little more.
Well, I think he's staying away from it because he's hurt.
Yeah.
And that puts, that puts the slider does put more torque on your arm. Is that, there's that spin, there's that twist on the release. So, my oldest son, we were talking today. He says, I wouldn't be shocked if after the season ends we see Chapman have some kind of minor procedure, and we find out that that's what's been bothering him. But the other thing is, listen, let's face it. Last night was, I don't think you'll ever see Rafael Devers hit 100+ mile an hour pitch off a lefty again in his career. Okay, that swing, that was just a perfect storm for him. But so do they have a shot? Of course, yes, they have a shot, but yes, they can blow it too. With the only other thing they have in their favor is that the other teams vying for the wild cards are also full of holes.
Yeah.
So,
as usual, is the cases for the second wild card. You have flawed teams, no question about it.
Twins, Royals, Mariners, and Rays are right there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, they're all flawed. Every team, like if you look in the wild card standings, every team there, is, extremely flawed.
Yeah. Hey, hats off to the Dodgers. I mean, we're not this isn't a Dodger show or anything, but you want to talk about excellence in a baseball team over the course of a year. This frickin' team does not ever lose.
They might lose, 50, 52 games this year?
Yeah.
And you know what? And they, too, have had their share of injuries. They've been without Kershaw for a few weeks. They lost Brandon McCarthy for a while. I believe they had lost Maeda for a short while. Rue was back and forth. Who was that lefty pitcher? They ended up dropping him. Brett? You know who I'm talking about. But they just ended up eating the contract and dumping him. Adrian Gonzalez has been on the DL. He hasn't, been what he's been, but he was always steady and consistent. Although actually they're getting a whole lot more production out of Clay Bellinger. But in general though, like they've had, they've had their share of injuries as well.
Yeah. Give them a lot of credit. They're talking about Dave Roberts being one of the best managers in baseball at this point, as young as he is.
He's dealt with a lot of injuries over the years and still had them up winning the division every year.
Yeah. So, Mert, let's mix in a little Mets, and I just want to say one thing about Sandy Alderson, that he made a statement that is so far, I don't know who he's trying to fool, but he said something about getting rid of Jay Bruce to clear a roster spot more than anything else. And not that he said nothing about saving salary, didn't mention that. They saved, between getting rid of Walker and Jay Bruce, they saved some bucks down the stretch, and
quite a bit, yes.
Completely discounted that, and Duda as well. But I want to ask you, Mert, do you think the prospects they received, all in out, did something to rebuild that farm system to add some strength to the lower minors?
I really don't think so. Whoever they got were, very low rated guys, the lowest minors, and low rated in the systems of the teams that they dealt with. I think they were basically just getting rid of guys whose contracts were up and dumping salary. It's pretty clear.
Yeah. Well, that's not exactly how Alderson phrased it, and I think I mean, you're gonna have to give this guy a lot of credit. He's got to play the company role. He's dealing with the Wilpons, who are still stingy in terms of everything he's wanted to do over the past 3 years. He's had to almost go to bat, literally, for. So I don't know what to tell you. I think the season is lost.
Oh yeah.
Good news is we're starting to get folks back. Lagares comes back. Looks like he's going to be in center.
Harvey is throwing rehab games. Well, he pitched 1 inning the other day. That was his first rehab. Syndergaard is going to be throwing off a mound the next time. He already threw off flat ground, and he's going to be throwing off the mound the next time he goes out. So, Harvey will be back before Syndergaard, but, they'll both be back in September. Not that it means anything, but...
Mert, I read something today, I think it was in the Daily News online, that says that they're seriously considering Flores for second base next year.
Oh, good. That's the position that I thought that he would have a chance to play, because they need to bring somebody in to play third base.
Right.
Flores, he's not quick enough. You got to be really quick to make those moves at third base. You know he's slow laterally, and second base, with all the shifting they do at second base, he really won't have that much ground to cover, and he doesn't have the long throw. He looks like he has trouble making the throw from third base also. I'd like to see him get a chance. If they live with Murphy, they can definitely live with him out there.
Yeah. And he's by sure. Yeah. What do you think of Rosario so far?
Well, he's been great in the field, no question about it. Lots of range, good arm, quickness, everything. A+, I think, in the field. And last couple of games, he's starting to get a few hits. So, very promising. Very promising.
Good. I feel the same exact way. Every time he makes a play in the field, he reminds me of Reyes. Good.
Very good.
Uncannily look-alike in terms of, the beard and the... And he's got a good attitude. And I got to give Reyes a lot of credit for just being a mentor. It's
absolutely,
Some players take to that, and I'm reminded. Put my little memory bag on when shortstop from Milwaukee, Mac Millen, as Lindsey Nelson used to call him. Yep. Roy McMillan would mentor Buddy Harrelson, and McMillan was in his last year or two, and Harrelson was just coming up, and all through his career, Harrelson gave a lot of credit to McMillan, and if it all goes well, this could be one of the best parts of re-signing Reyes is his effect on Rosario. So we'll see how that goes.
Bringing Reyes back next year?
Do you think they are?
Depends how cheap he wants to work, knowing the Mets. As a utility guy, I mean, fine. He can play all three positions in the infield as a utility guy.
Well, aren't they talking about Cabrera under those circumstances?
Well, Cabrera, I think they got a team option on Cabrera for, I don't know, $6 or $8 million, something like that. So they could bring him back and do that as well. I don't see them bringing both of them in. One of them.
I don't see Reyes coming back. And the thing is with Cabrera, they have like a $6 million option, but I believe his buyout is $2 million. So the difference between dumping him and keeping him is $4 million, and you know what, they're probably not going to get anybody more, a more solid, established veteran than him for less than $4 million. The other thing is, don't forget they have T.J. Rivera, who can play all the infield positions. They have Gavin Cecchini. There are guys that they just need to bring up. It's time to cut bait. What I think is going to be the most interesting thing regarding the Mets in this offseason, besides the Matt Harvey saga, is the David Wright medical story. Like, what do you know?
I don't think I haven't had any inkling of hope for him coming back in a long time. Has that changed?
Neither have I. No, but you know what? Until he himself says, "Listen, I just can't physically do it anymore." I hate to say it. It's almost as though it's selfish on his part, because you know what? There was no way he was going to play this year. There was no way, and he hamstrung them. And because of what what his salary is, they were painted into a corner to make believe that, yes, that's who they're counting on. Fingers crossed, maybe we can get.
Well, I don't think they thought they were counting on. I think they thought that Reyes would give him the same kind of year at third as he did in the second half when they got him last year. And if you remember, he started off horribly. So
no, I understand, but they're hamstrung with him. That's like, I think that's like $19 million
and all that. Eventually, it's going to go to insurance, I'm sure.
Well, I believe his contract is already insured. In other words, like, I'm pretty sure they recouped most of his contract this year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because I know generally it's like, usually if a player is injured and if a guy has to retire because he's physically unable to perform, and his guaranteed contract is insured, then the club will recoup money. But from what I've read more than one time over the past couple of years, is that they are actually recouping money after he's on the DL a certain amount of time.
Okay. So that brings us to another question: the future manager. My philosophy is, and I'll go with an example of Eddie Matthews, who was hired by the Braves. Beloved Eddie Matthews in the Braves organization was hired by the Braves to be a manager, as is every manager hired to be fired. Do you really want to take an icon, a beloved right, and someday face that decision of having to fire him? I mean, he could be a great manager for a long time. Someday you're going to have to pull the cord. And so let's go around the horn. Not right in particular. Respond to that, if you would, Robert, first. That idea of, should an organization shy away from hiring a beloved player, a superstar, this, that, and the other thing?
No, not really. You see a lot of clubs that hire former players. You got even Joe Girardi, who's had success with the Yankees, and I don't think it's a big issue as long as they've done a decent job as a manager and had success.
Okay. Marty.
Yeah, I think they would hire him, but not at the big club right away. The guy has no managerial experience. You got to send him down to managing the minors, and you would think that he's not going to want to do that, especially while he's collecting his player's salary, which is considerable. But they would never hire him with no experience on the big club. No way.
Other clubs do that. Paul Molitor is an example. Ventura, if I'm not mistaken, had no manager.
Girardi.
Girardi too.
Well, Girardi started with the Marlins, yes.
Yeah.
And did a fantastic job.
And got fired.
Yeah. But and by the way, if David Wright misses significant time because of his back injury, his contract is insured. Basically, if he misses 60 days, the Mets are insured for 75% of the value of his contract during the time he misses. So, but you know what? Listen, you don't not hire a guy if he's the right guy, okay? Because you know one day you're going to fire him. And actually, the Yankees can go a lot further back from Girardi. You had Lou Piniella, you had Yogi Berra, you had Billy Martin.
Yeah.
So, have I forgotten anybody? Because they went through.
Well, Yogi Berra is probably the prime example of what I'm talking about, both with the Mets and with the Yankees. He's beloved beyond belief, and his firings, both with the Mets and the Yankees, very controversial. Very, especially with the Yankees, he's shied away from them for like 12 years, something like that.
The Mets have Edgardo Alfonso managing in their system now.
I was just thinking about that. He's managing in the minors, coming along. Alfonso, one of my favorite all-time Mets.
Yeah, but one other thing that comes to mind though. Okay, I mean, even though he's actually silencing somewhat his doubters and his critics. Okay, if the Mets would sign Tim Tebow, okay, then it wouldn't shock me if they made David Wright manager.
True.
Yeah.
Just to draw fans in.
Happy birthday, Tim Tebow, by the way. 30 years old today.
Look at that.
Oh. Yeah, happy birthday.
But also 2 for his last 25 and down to 238.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's a much tougher league, that high A league in
the Florida State League. The balls die out there. I mean, that's pretty much it. The ball. I mean, and Ralph, I've told you this in the past. I've always said, don't get it. And this goes for Yankee fans as well. Don't get too excited for any pitching, any gaudy numbers from pitching prospects from the Mets or the Yankees in the Florida State League. Okay? But do get excited over gaudy batting numbers. And, and for the Mets, don't get too excited over, gaudy batting numbers in Las Vegas, but do get excited over a pitcher that does well in Las Vegas. It's the ball, it's in the air.
Yeah.
The ball just doesn't carry out there.
Yeah. Anything this week that's I think these next couple of weeks are gonna really determine how the Yankees go. I think, so anything you're looking for in a positive sense, Robert?
Well, I'd like to see Judge start to come around a little bit, but like Michael Kay said today, he's not in a slump. He's lost a little bit. I mean, since the All-Star break, he's batting 165, 16 for his last 97. He's got 47 strikeouts. He just struck out tonight, which is 31 games in a row. One more game ties the record set by Adam Dunn. And Tanaka with the shoulder, and apparently Sabathia's knees bothered him all year, here and there, and on maybe a pitch here and a pitch there, and now all of a sudden it's hurting him between his knee and Tanaka's shoulder.
Do they sit him down? do they not send him down, but even perhaps do send him down? Willie McCovey got off to a great start, and he ended up being optioned, came back strong. At least give him some. I think he's had 1 day off throughout since the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the pitchers.
They're not going to send him down. They're
No.
not going to send him down. Okay,
and
he means too much money to them. And as a matter of fact, he just I read somewhere that like he signed a deal. Okay, he signed an autograph deal with Fanatics. Okay, so I mean, I've just pulled it up, and to me, I look, it's bad timing, But during the first week of July, one of Judge's signed rookie cards sold for $14,655 on eBay.
Holy cow!
So,
whoa.
Yeah, and and it's funny. Like, I don't know. I wonder what he gets to sign something, because I was thinking, hey, come spring training, I went to the game where he tied Joe DiMaggio's rookie home run record. And I hung on to the tickets, and I said, hey, you know what? One of these days, hopefully I'll have a chance to get at least one of the tickets autographed. I have a feeling now if I want that, it's going to cost me. So we'll see. I'm not big on spending money on autographs.
Wayne, do you think the Yankees would be...
Just to you guys and to everybody out there, I would not buy an autograph unless I saw it signed by the player.
Well, that goes without saying. But wait, Robert, what was your question?
I was wondering, do you think it would be better off if the Yankees went to a 6-man rotation just to save Tanaka and Sabathia with their injuries? Think it'd be easier on them if they had an extra day's rest?
It all depends. Do they have 6 capable pitchers? I mean, think about it. If they, I don't know. The only way, you know what?
You'd put Montgomery back in there.
Or I would, you know what? Or else, I mean, I kind of wonder why they haven't called up Chance Adams.
I know.
I mean, I know part of it has to do with the fact that he is on an innings limit, but a 6-man rotation would be an opportunity. But all in all, honestly, I'm not a fan of the 6-man rotation.
Yeah. Was Chance on the roster, the 40-man roster?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Adams, yes, Adams. He's on the 40-man roster.
They keep saying he has to work on his
condition as to why guys don't get called up and why it takes guys longer to reach the bigs. Well, this last question, I guess, would be for Marty, that I have for Marty, would be on Smith. Tommy Smith is now a New York Met. What do you think? Are they rushing him?
He hasn't shown much since he came up, really. I think he's a work in progress for sure. Like they were saying, he's got a body like
good, isn't he?
He's got a body like Tony Gwynn. They're saying, he could stand to lose a few pounds. It looks like. He's supposed to be good in the field, but he never. Even in Las Vegas, he didn't hit for power. I think he only had 16 home runs out there, and it's a hitter's park, hitter's league. So he's got to work on his power, and remains to be seen. We'll see what he does the rest of the year. So far, I'm not impressed very much. Okay. But it's only been a few games.
Is there a shot at getting rid of Granderson and getting something for him at this point?
If you can get something, why not? I mean, it doesn't matter how many games they win or lose the rest of the year. If they could get something for him. I heard the Nationals might be interested now that Harper went down. So, what's the difference? If they can get something, why not? He's not coming back next year.
Okay. Hats off to
and by the way, I stand corrected. I don't think Adams is on the 40-man roster.
Oh, no?
Okay.
I don't believe he is.
That said, and that's all through baseball. Every team fights with playing time, with time on the 40-man roster against their the time that they're owned by the team, and so that may be a factor in him not being called up. I'm just surmising. Hats off to Conforto, Mert.
Yes, he's actually
put together a good year.
Really good. Yeah,
he's turning into. They had him leading off for a while. He adjusted well to that. He's down in the order a little bit now. I'm starting to really think that we have a solid guy for a long time.
I think so.
Nice.
Yeah, he looks very good. No question.
Greg Bird starts his rehab assignment Wednesday.
Is that?
Yeah. When is he due back?
Greg. I'm not sure. I'm not completely sure, but I know today they announced that he'll be starting his rehab assignment Wednesday.
Oh, so looking maybe 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
It can't be more. It can't be more than 2 weeks. I think the rehab assignments are only good for either 10 or 14 days, and it might be 10 days, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. And then they have to call him up. Is that the idea, or?
And then they have to take him off the DL. I believe, yes. Or sit him down again, or DL him,
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I want to end on a positive note. The most positive thing that's come out of this entire disaster this year for the Mets, has it been Conforto's development, Mert?
Yeah, definitely. You could see a big difference from last year to this year. He's definitely matured. He's got the arm. He's got the power. The only thing that would keep him from being a 5-tool player is, he doesn't have the speed of a 5-tool player. Not that he's slow, but
he's not that bad in center. I'll tell you that. I mean,
no.
So that's a heavy duty up, but I think in the long term he's a right fielder.
Yeah.
Not a center fielder.
No,
now, Lagares, is he going to come back and be the same old brittle Lagares when he's healthy? He did win a Gold Glove. I think he's a super outfielder, and
he's out there tonight. So
yeah,
because they got the DH tonight, So
is that what he's playing?
He's in center and the DH in Granderson.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Grandy homered earlier in this game.
Yeah.
What's the score, just out of curiosity?
It's 2-1 Mets. Cespedes had homered in the same inning. They just had to take Sessa out. Looks like an injury of some kind. So, yeah.
New York injury this year?
Yeah, but Montero got out of a bad situation. He's already over 70 pitches, and he had bases loaded and 1 out, and Sanchez hit a sac fly, but then they got the next guy. So it's 2-1. We're in, I think, the top of the fourth or the fifth, because they're changing pitchers right now. I don't know what happened to Sessa.
It's the top of the fifth.
Top of the fifth, okay.
Okay.
But,
Wayne, your impressions, anything you see that was absolutely a surprise and a good development this year for the Yankees that may not have been a surprise, but what are you most pleased with on a positive note?
I mean, I'm pleased. I have to say, I'm pleased with a number of things. I'm pleased with Aaron Hicks. I'm pleased with Luis Severino. Other than his defense behind the plate, I'm pleased that Gary Sanchez did not fall off a cliff, is not hitting, at the unrealistic rate that he hit last year when he came up. But I'm pleased that when he came, he hasn't fallen off a cliff. I think any catcher, any team in baseball will be very happy to have a catcher that has a 272, 349, 502 line at the plate. So,
you're happy with
that? A number of things I'm happy, and let's face it, nobody, I pegged the Yankees at 84 wins. When they started getting hot, I said, you know what, I think they can get to 88. So it remains to be seen, where they end up, but, I just hope they don't have an imminent collapse, We'll see what happens down the stretch. I'm curious to see this. This is also going to define whether or not Joe Girardi is back. It comes back.
I was going to ask, do you guys think he will be? And I guess it just depends on how they do down the stretch, which is kind of
think
unfair.
it's pretty much
He's been manager for a long time.
This will be his season.
You know what? I don't think it's unfair. I'll tell you what. I think for years, though, it was very unfair that he got criticized for the most part being handed, I won't say defective teams, dysfunctionally put together teams. I mean, even that 2009 team that won it, let's face it. I mean, they got lucky. They did. They you know what? They had, they got, what was his, AJ Burnett, came through for them in the playoffs. Matsui had an unbelievable World Series. Rodriguez, Alex had a great postseason. Yeah. But you know what? But that team was flawed, and the Phillies gave them plenty. The Phillies gave them plenty that, in that World Series. But other than that, I mean, they've had that aging rotisserie team that he's had to work with. And finally, this year they gave him something to work with. Maybe they didn't give him a championship team to work with, but they gave him something to work with. And I think in certain areas he's failing. And
but you were the one that said that you expected them to win 84 games.
I understand, but in other words, as far as development, I still think, though, I think he's failing them in the way he handles the pitching staff. I mean, listen, what took him so long to finally say, like, hey, Gary Sanchez, it's not how you do it behind the plate. You got a gun for an arm, but you got, you got to block some balls. And not only that, they
can't just throw a glove out there.
And listen, not for nothing, but I think they've taken too long to recognize and become alarmed at Aaron Judge's downward spiral.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. Although I'm here, I heard rumors floating out there, and I don't know how substantial they were, that now that there's going to be new ownership with the Marlins, I hear that, who knows, Don Mattingly may not be long for Florida. And I hear rumors about, Mattingly coming to the Yankees if Girardi's gone. And I think Mattingly is like a horrible manager. I think he's a hot, you know what, listen, here's where you got to separate the player, Donnie, and the manager, Donnie. Okay? Think about it. Like, you know what? Not for nothing, and Ralph, you've heard me say this before. Joe Torre, got a whole lot stupider after he didn't have Don Zimmer, and then Willie Randolph as bench coaches. And when Mattingly became his bench coach, all of a sudden, like, you know, a lot of his strategy with good teams was heavily questioned, and for good reason. So no, Mattingly is I'm not I'm not a fan of his as a manager. I'm not even.
I mean, he did do a good job though. He when he was with the Dodgers, he dealt with a lot of injuries, and still 3 years in a row won the division and got him into the playoffs.
Yeah,
hey,
you know what?
Lou Piniella? Is Lou Piniella totally out of ball?
I don't think Lou Piniella is an answer either. Okay, I really don't. I'll tell you who they should bring. I'll give you a name. I'll give you a name with Yankee history, managerial experience, and was a good manager. Okay, Willie Randolph.
I'd like that.
Who did you say, Wayne? We spoke over each other.
I said Willie Randolph. That was who I said. Willie
said
Randolph.
The same thing
and Robert. Oh, and Robert agreed. Yeah, Willie Randolph.
Yeah, that would be a nice one. How about for the Yankees, for the Mets, Marty? Is there a chance Collins comes back?
Sure, there's a chance. Yeah, why not? But I think they should do a complete overhaul. You know, that's my opinion. These guys, they're getting young players now that maybe need younger guys running the team. I would have a complete overhaul, including the medical staff.
The medical staff, absolutely.
Top to bottom.
Well, Marty, let me ask you a question. Just because you have young players, why do you need a young manager? Why, there's plenty of great coaches out there who relate very well and do very well with young players. I tell you what, sure. I'll throw a name out there at you, who I think would have in New York would have the celebrity of Ron Bloomberg. Okay, how about Jerry Weinstein? He's a coach.
I know
he's a
Jerry
coach
Weinstein
for the Rockies
from Sacramento. He's a minor league coach. He was an
He's in the Rocky system, and he was the manager. He was the manager of the Israeli team in the World Baseball Classic, and he posts stuff all the time on Facebook. He's always posting these videos. You see how this guy did this? You see how that guy did that? He's a teaching manager. He'd be great.
He was a junior college coach at Sacramento City College, which is one of the most prolific junior colleges in the country. He went on from there. He was a head coach at Miami, University of Miami for a while, a big baseball school. Came back to Sac City and does coach in the summer times in the Rocky organization.
He's actually the manager this year. He is the manager of their AA team in Hartford.
Yeah,
the Hartford Yard Goats.
He manages
okay,
the system.
And the Yard Goats. I don't know if you remember last year. Their stadium wasn't ready on time. They played all their home games on the road last year. But yes, he also he started out at UCLA. He was an assistant with Miami. Yep, Sacramento City. He's coached all through the minors. He's been an assistant coach with Team USA in the Olympics more than once.
They should promote Frank Viola too for pitching coach.
Oh, no question.
Yeah,
no question. And again, if you're the Mets, you're going to want names too.
Yeah, sure.
Viola, big name in New York. That's
absolutely
natural. Yeah. So
listen,
very interesting down the stretch.
I don't think you necessarily need to get a big name from your organization, the reason I mentioned Willie Randolph is because I've always felt Willie Randolph was a great manager. And I'm trying to think, I can't think of a better qualified unemployed manager right now.
Yeah.
I can't.
Well,
and that's why I mentioned him. But, listen, I guess we're going to find out, that I guess this is going to be fodder for the winter shows.
Yes, absolutely. That's baseball anymore is all year round, and always interesting, always fun with you guys. Anything you want to close with, Marty, Robert? Anything comes to mind that you just got to say?
Yankees bullpen is leading the league in ERA since the All-Star break with an ERA under 2. Chapman's a little worrisome. But also if Judge and when Holiday returns, if they can't produce, it worries me in the middle of that lineup. They're going to need other guys to step up and help score some runs. I'd like to see Todd Frazier contribute a little bit more.
Headley's having a pretty nice year for you.
Yeah.
That's nice. And
I would say
Hicks is coming back strong. That's a big one. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Wayne, on the Yankees or the Mets, anything you want to close with?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Marty?
I'd say
opportunity to go, that's enough.
for the Mets, for a team that's been built on pitching, we got one starter right now.
Yeah.
That's DeGrom.
Who would have really thunk at this point? Remember they were going an 8-man rotation. Who was going to go? The 8th guy?
Montero was the 8th starter. I remember that.
Yes.
Montero was the 8th starter in spring training.
Gazelman was like 7 or something like that.
And Lugo,
Yes.
and all the guys that are hurt. It's unbelievable. And this kid Flexen that they brought up from Binghamton, I mean, he might have potential down the road, but he's got guys on base every inning. I mean, he's lucky he gets through 5 innings. Lucky for him it was the Phillies, because he's got a whip of over 2, which is ridiculous. So better luck next year.
Now, Mats, is he just a brittle guy? Is that
totally
inconsistent?
Totally inconsistent. Yeah, and he's hurt every year. And again, it was the Phillies, and that guy that pitched against him on Saturday.
Was he the West Point graduate?
No.
There was a West Point graduate. He became the first West Point alum to pitch in the majors.
Now this guy Nola, Nola.
That could
Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
He's
Aaron Nola.
He's had like 7 or 8 consecutive starts of 7 innings plus and 2 runs or less. So the Phillies may have something there, for years to come.
Nice for them.
Yeah.
What can I say? Hey, rest in peace, Darren Dalton. I don't think he passed away.
And Don Baylor.
Yeah, and Don Baylor too. The older we get, we're starting to lose our heroes. And there's an awful lot of former Phillies, former ball players, but Phillies in particular, who are dying from brain cancer. McGraw, Dalton, and the rumors that there's something could be going on with Veteran Stadium.
What they built the field on.
Yankee Stadium too has had their share of folks. Anyway,
I don't think it has anything at all to do with the stadiums.
Well,
I really
you don't know what kind.
Hope not.
Yeah, what kind of materials go in the old days, the anti-flammable stuff that who knows?
Could it also be that these guys grew up in rural areas that had overhead power lines?
Yep, that very well could be.
And when was Veterans Stadium built?
I don't know offhand. That's just a story that was somebody trying to surmise.
Okay. Yeah. No. All right. It opened up in '71. I'm just curious, because I do remember it being built. I know it wasn't like a super old stadium, even though it's been replaced already. But again, I mean, listen, we had Dick Hauser, Kansas City. I mean, I'm sure. You know what? I'm sure if you Google a list of former MLB players who died of brain cancer, I'm pretty sure it'd be pretty well spread out.
I know,
really
but there have been more in Philadelphia for one reason or another. I scanned the article. There have been a number out of Philadelphia, shocking amount compared to the rest of baseball. Not shocking, but more than other stadiums, other teams. That's all. And they just may take years to find out what causes this. But that's a real low way to end the show, but sometimes it happens that way. Brain cancer talk. Till next week, gentlemen. I hope we all return. It was an informative show. It was a little downer at the end, but I appreciate the knowledge that I received from you guys, and I'm sure the audience will too.
We'll enjoy the rest of the Subway series.
Yes, enjoy that, and I have to say, Robert, go Mets.
Well, they're winning right now.
Okay. Wayne, thank you for bringing Wayne Unger to us. Tell us about Weighted Donuts. How are you doing? You're in a bit of a hiatus with the move. Anything you have?
I'm not so much in a hiatus. I was on a roll. I did a show like 2 weeks in a row. I was lost. I couldn't get one in last week. I started working. I had to go back to work. But
right.
I am working. I'm working on doubling up this week, and we'll see what it brings. It's very difficult getting, particularly this time of the year, it's very difficult getting writers who are connected to Major League Baseball. They are nonstop. They're so busy, they don't sleep. They're, it's like they'll close their eyes.
Listen to the regulars that Wayne has on Weighted Donuts. Big time guys. Kernan, Zimborski with ESPN, Joe Casal, former player agent, incredibly articulate guy. You've got some
Jerry Krasnick, Danny Nabla, Jonathan Mayo. I've been fortunate. I mean, I have to almost kind of be a little bit of a pest, but it is what it is.
You relate really well to these guys, so they wouldn't keep coming back. So kudos. It's one of the most interesting podcasts going, let alone on our network, the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. So thank you, Marty. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Wayne. And everybody out there, you guys included, keep on keeping on. We'll see you next week, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.